Reaching the max rank in Black Ops 2 Zombies is one of the rarest achievements in Call of Duty's history, where things like 10th Prestige and a Weapons Mastery camo can all be done by a player of any skill if given enough time. The shotgun's rank in Zombies is both a direct reflection of an individual player's skill and was shrouded in mystery for the game's entire life cycle. The community only discovered that it was a player's round-to-down ratio that impacted this rank after Advanced Warfare was released 2 full years later. With how much time some players sunk into Black Ops 2 without trying to maximize this ratio, for some of us, reaching the max rank became nearly impossible. This is the camp I found myself in. On my Xbox account, I was ever only able to reach the Skull and Knife rank after playing Black Ops 2 relatively consistently for an entire decade. But now that I've switched to PC gaming, I have a fresh start with Black Ops 2 on a brand new Steam account, which is why for the past month I've been grinding to reach that elusive max rank for the first time. Naturally, I recorded it all, and let me tell you, the journey was not what I expected. The way you get to max rank in Black Ops 2 Zombies is by completing a certain amount of games with a round-to-down ratio of 15:1, which means that on average you go down once every 15 rounds. So naturally that means to reach the max rank you're going to want to play maps that are relatively easy. However, after jumping into a quick game of Town to make sure that my controller worked properly, I started my first game of Black Ops 2 Zombies on Nuketown. On the surface this seems like a really strange idea, however at the time I was working on another video where I showed off a strategy where you could survive without Juggernog on Nuketown until round 25, and I needed footage to go over that video's intro. And because the theater mode on consoles has been disabled for years, I had to get these clips on PC. The strategy I use in that video is pretty safe, but thankfully I didn't need to use it in this game because I got Jug on round 3, and from there I was able to make it all the way to round 36 flawlessly and quit the match after taking my first down because I had all the gameplay I needed. I did this match in custom games, which I've seen some people claim does not count towards your round to down ratio, but I immediately ranked up to the Crossbones rank after this match, so I don't know how true that is. Maybe it's because I'm playing on Plutonium and that somehow changes things, but either way I'm really happy with this first day of grinding. The next time I played Black Ops 2 was 8 days later since I was making videos, but once that was done I jumped into Black Ops 2 and decided to try out Town. This was largely just to get back into the swing of things and to further test out what my machine was capable of graphics and frame rate wise, but I ended up going flawlessly until round 34. By the way, those graphics settings are going to change a lot over the course of this video. After that was done I went into game 3 on Berries since it's one of the easier maps in the game and one of my all-time favorites. I also wanted to further adjust to my graphics settings, and Berry's long sightlines gave me an opportunity to try and fix something that's really bothered me this entire time. I was having real trouble finding a setting to increase the render distance so I could have the highest level of detail on every asset, but that doesn't appear to be a setting in this game. If you happen to know what I need to do to fix this, please let me know in the comments, because it's really distracting to have assets completely change out of nowhere, especially on a map like Origins or Shangri-La in Black Ops 1. But as for Buried, the really easy map turned out to be incredibly easy. For this game I largely just camped in front of Juggernog with either the AN-94 or the SVU and relied on the map's wonder weapons and buildable traps to kill anything that got too close. One thing I didn't account for was the Witch's random perk bottle being quick revive, which did add an unnecessary down to my game as I got to round 41 flawlessly and eventually died on round 42. Not having the perma perk that lets you keep your perks after going down was a slight handicap here, but I don't think I had the desire to go much further after that first down anyway. I should mention that while a round to down ratio makes sense to determine a player's skill on paper, it creates some weird incentives in practice. Namely, quick revive is a detriment more than anything. It would have been way better for me to game over at round 41 instead of using quick revive to get to round 42. That's the difference between a round to down ratio of 41:1 and 21:1. Both of those are great and will get me to the max rank in no time, but once you start having some bad games in the future, having that extra padding is going to be really useful. Unless I'm going to go all the way to round 60 every single time I play, I'm not going to be able to use all of my available quick revives and maintain a ratio above 15:1, so it's likely better on average to try and go as far as possible flawlessly than use a single quick revive. Unfortunately, those 2 games weren't enough to break us out of Crossbones, but after 3 games we have a round to down ratio of 28:1, so we're doing just fine here as we move on into day 3. Game 4 also ended up being a little while after the last game because of the video schedule, but I definitely made up for lost time with this game of Origins. By round 22, I had an upgraded Ice Staff, G-Strikes, 1-inch Punch, Golden Shovel, and Helmet, and gotten some extra perks along the way. By the way, I hope this perk order makes you feel as uncomfortable as it made me, but I'm going to make it even worse. The game also decided this perk order was illegal by giving me a Templar and Panzer round at round 45, and then giving me a double points instead of a max ammo after defeating the Templars. But don't worry, I'm sure the Panzer won't take a charged Ice Staff shot and burn my face off, leading to my first down of the game. Yeah, after that, this run wouldn't last much longer. I was able to get Jug and start to recover, but a late Ice Staff shot would be the end of the run soon after. Thankfully, I did rank up to the Skull rank after this game, so at least the game took some pity on me. The way this game ended definitely wasn't on my bingo card, but we are finishing day 3 with a Skull rank and a round to down ratio of 26.17 to 1, which is still more than good enough to eventually rank up again. I decided to spend some of my Independence Day in the most American way possible, taking part in the for-profit prison industrial complex.
Ain't that swell?
All joking aside, I really love Mob of the Dead and was really excited to play it again on PC, but I knew it would be really problematic for this challenge. We already talked about how quick revives make reaching max rank harder, and with Mob of the Dead, quick revive is replaced with the Afterlife system. And while Afterlife is super cool as a gameplay and story element, it means that you can go down more than 4 times, which can really mess up that round to down ratio. On top of that, Mob has one of the hardest early games because of how far Jug is from spawn, and with the amount of things that can distract you from getting Jug early, such as plane parts, feeding the Hellhounds, or collecting shield and acid gat parts. So you have a choice to make in the early game. Do I go straight for Jug and worry about map progression later, or do I feed the Hellhounds to pick up plane parts as I make my way to Juggernog? I decided to try and kill 2 birds with 1 stone by triggering the laundry step to spawn in a ton of zombies on round 1, and using the free double points to get a ton of money early on to unlock the doors I needed to get to Jug. It was a great idea on paper, but when you could go down in 2 hits, there's no room for mistakes. Okay. It was a really unfortunate down, but because of the Afterlife system, we can recover. I finished up round 1 with a ton of points, and from there, everything went perfectly smoothly. By round 18, I was completely set up with the Acid Gat, Hell's Redeemer, and Golden Spork, the classic Mob of the Dead trifecta. From there, it was running around the cafeteria until I got bored and ended up killing myself at round 32. 2 downs across 32 rounds is a ratio of 16 to 1, which is the lowest single game ratio we've had so far, but it is still above the 15 to 1 requirement and brings the ratio across 5 games to 23.63 to 1. The ratio is trending in the wrong direction, but we're still well in the clear, and if we didn't have that round 1 down, the ratio would have been 27 to 1. That really demonstrates just how easy it is to fall and how difficult it is to climb with this challenge, but as long as we don't have an absolutely catastrophic day 5, I'm sure we'll be perfectly fine. Things were going pretty well up until this point, but this is where the bottom falls out for a day. Game 6 was my first game of Die Rise on PC, and well, the pre-Jug windmill was bound to happen at some point. Oh, fuck me, man. Thankfully, Game 7 went a little bit better. I got completely set up with the Liquefier and all my perks for a long day of training in the Buddha room. Something that will become apparent throughout these games is that sometimes I'm an incredibly lazy player. I get to round 35 without any training, instead choosing to camp at the top of the Buddha room and let the zombies come to me. But by round 35, I'm starting to get overrun when the inevitable happens. Oh, fuck. What a way to go. Looking back on this footage is really frustrating because there's a few opportunities where it's so obvious that now is the time to drop down and start training with the Liquefier, but the idea of moving around and using literally any brain power is beyond reason for some reason, and it leads to an entirely avoidable death. Combined with the last game, the round to down ratio for the day is 20 to 1, which is still really good, but we're not done for the day. By this point, playing a few hours of Black Ops 2 a day is part of my routine to get to the max rank as soon as possible, but it's clear that I'm not mentally prepared for my next game. Game 8 was a 45-minute long run that only made it to round 10. Once again, I'm late on a charge shot from the ice staff after running directly into a zombie. I don't know why I decided to run where I did here. I assume it was to get back to the soul box and fill that up, but the 1-inch punch, while cool, is not at all helpful for reaching a high round. And even if it was necessary, I could have gone the long way through the tank tracks and came around the other side instead of running back through the horde. Just poor decision making all around. I decided to make up for lost time by playing game 9 on town since the pace of play is much faster. I ended up making it to round 24 flawlessly before training myself into a corner at the beginning of a round. Mind you, I have monkey bombs, I have a ray gun, and I have the entire map to play with, but I did whatever it is I did here. A 24-to-1 ratio is still pretty good, but far short of the 34-to-1 ratio from the last time I played town. And with the setup I had here, I should have been able to at least make it to round 30, if not 35 or 40. Day 5 ended with a ton more games played, which is good because we're going to need to play a bunch of games to reach the minimum game requirement to reach shotguns, but my round to down ratio has dropped all the way down to 21.92 to 1. We're still in the clear for now, but if this trend continues, it won't be long before things get bad. Day 6 is going to have to be much better. I took a break between days 5 and 6 of grinding to recenter myself, and things immediately improved. I opened game 10 with a round 63 rainbow perk run of Origins where I upgraded every single staff. It's probably one of the best games of Origins I've ever played, though it wasn't flawless. I made it all the way to round 62 flawlessly, but then I started having ammo problems with my ice staff, and try as I might, my drop luck wasn't in my favor. At this point, I still have the free max ammo for turning on all 6 power generators around the map, but I want to save that for an even higher round if I can. So I decided to swap out my ice staff for a lightning staff, and I don't know if I've tricked myself into thinking that the lightning staff was way more powerful than it actually is or what, but I couldn't get a kill with this thing to save my life. Round 62 zombies just ate lightning staff shots for breakfast. That in combination with some bad training led to my first down of the game, but in my defense, a wonder weapon should absolutely be capable of killing zombies at this round. I was anticipating them dying after taking half a dozen charged lightning staff shots, but they took them all on the chin and downed me instantly. After that, I learned my lesson and immediately went to swap out my lightning staff for a wind staff. At this point, I'd like to point out that the reason I didn't grab a fire staff at this point is because I believe there is a possibility that the upgraded fire staff can crash your game at higher rounds, and I didn't know how high of a round you needed to reach for that to be a problem, or how a crash would impact your round to down ratio, and after playing for close to 5 hours at this point, I wasn't going to find out. Thankfully, the wind staff's charge shot is more effective at this round, but at this point I made another critical error. I finally got the max ammo I was looking for, but I didn't realize that max ammos don't refill the staffs that are sitting in their pedestals, and well, I learned that the hard way. Thank God. Thank God. Finally. Yeah, this works. Oh shit. Nuke into ice. Oh, you don't get ammo from that? Oh my god, you're fucking kidding me. I don't know if this is another thing that I've tricked myself into believing is true, or if it's different in the Chronicles version or something, but I could have sworn max ammos refilled every staff. After that, I'm able to partially recover and get some of my perks back, and since I have ammo in my ray gun Mark II again, I decide to continue fishing for a natural max ammo. That was working for a bit before I got caught at generator 5. I probably could have gotten out of this if I went for Mark II headshots instead, but I decided to throw a G-strike and end up going down. I'm able to get Jug again, but almost immediately get caught at generator 5 again, and that's game over. 3 downs across 63 rounds for a round to down ratio of 21 to 1, which is still great for this challenge, but had I not gotten a single quick revive, it could have been a ratio of 62 to 1, and it could have been even higher had I gone for the free max ammo instead of relying on my drop luck. And this is exactly what I mean when I say this game's ranking system creates strange incentives. Like, in what universe would a round 63 run be less valuable than the last game of Town I played yesterday. That Town game was extremely normal and not even a good run considering what it could have been, but because I never bought Quick Revive, it's technically got a better ratio. But after the calamity that was day 5, my head is clearly back in the game. All 3 downs were ultimately the cause of one poor decision that cascaded into multiple downs. We finished our 10th game with a round to down ratio of 21.73 to 1, and I finally reached the Knife and Skull rank. Now if that Origins game was flawless, it would have been a ratio of 25 to 1, but we're at least trending in the right direction. Surely we'll reach shotguns soon. Right? That Origins game took over 5 hours, but apparently I still had a lot of time on my hands that day because I wasn't done there. We still had a handful of green run maps that I hadn't played yet on PC, so I decided to play through every green run map that day, and I started with Transit. This run was pretty normal for a Transit run, but it definitely ended prematurely. After spending way too long building the jet gun, I decided to give it a whirl, and well, there's a reason I normally don't build this thing. That's exactly how this game should end. God, the jet gun fucking sucks. Looking back, I also played this really poorly. I should have kept backing up instead of walking into the side of a building. Definitely my bad, but hey, at least I don't have to keep playing Transit after this. Game 12 was on Farm, which ended up going a lot better than I expected. I ended up having a pretty decent flawless round 25 run. I don't usually play Farm since there's no pack-a-punch like on Town, but I actually had fun with the map this time. Maybe I've been underrating it all these years. A map I definitely haven't been underrating is the next map, Bus Depot. This is a map I don't often play because, well, it's really fucking hard, man. I just don't really know what to do on this map beyond round 10. I'm sure I could play it much better if I took the time to learn the spawns and develop a strategy, but I don't really enjoy this bare-bones style of map outside of World at War, so needless to say, this game didn't go super well. If you happen to be watching this for tips on how to reach shotguns, I would just flat out avoid this map. The only reason I played it is because I want to have played every map at least once on PC, but I don't think I'll be coming back to this one anytime soon. I didn't want to close out the day with Bus Depot, so I decided to boot up a quick game of Town to round out the Green Run saga. Things went pretty well here until I got caught with a ray gun out instead of the Executioner. I didn't want to risk downing myself with the ray gun splash damage and tried for a melee kill since I had insta-kill, but for some reason that didn't work. And the game ended on round 27 after my first down. Definitely another avoidable down, but all in all, not a bad game to wrap things up on. That concludes day 6, which is by far the longest day of grinding so far. After 14 games, we have a round to down ratio of 21.3 to 1. The ratio definitely dropped after the Transit and Bus Depot games, but it was important to me that I played all the maps at least once. And despite that, we still have a very healthy ratio and made it all the way to the Knife rank. So that surely means we'll make it to shotguns relatively soon. Right? This is where reaching shotguns becomes a bit of a grind. As far as I can tell, the only thing remaining is to play out a certain amount of zombies games while maintaining a round to down ratio above 15 to 1. Going in, I had no idea how many games that needed to be, but as long as I play well, it's just a matter of time, so let's get through these last games as quickly as possible. I didn't have too much time to play on day 7, so it was just one game on Buried where I reached round 35 with 2 downs. Still Knife rank, and the round to down ratio is now 20.19 to 1. I had a little more time on day 8, but this was another catastrophic day for me. Game 16 is back on Die Rise, and it's a familiar story. Game 17 didn't go much better. I switched to Origins, and while picking up my 1-inch punch, I didn't notice a crawler in front of me and got caught at Generator 6. Game 18 is on Nuketown, and I'm just not paying attention to the spawns and turn to shoot in a terrible spot. This was an absolutely disastrous day. The round to down ratio dropped from 20.19 to 1 to 18.79 to 1. That's still high enough to get shotguns eventually, but the ratio won't survive another day like that. Day 9 only had one game played. On the one hand, it went better than last time. I made it to round 33 on Origins and only went down twice. I would like to complain that this charged ice staff shot didn't kill these zombies with insta-kill, but hey, what can you do? Beg fucking pardon. There is an insta-kill. I'm in the middle of a goddamn blizzard. And I had a shield. How the fuck did I die there? Day 10 was by far the busiest day I've done for this challenge. I managed to play 10 games today. At this point, I'm just trying to play as many games as quickly as possible without dropping my ratio, and my strategy isn't changing within the same maps. Game 20 is back on Die Rise, and I made it all the way to round 29 while camping at the top of the Buddha room. This time I was smart enough to drop down once I started getting overrun, but I just moved to another camping spot in the Buddha room and didn't move this time. It went about as well as you would expect. Game 21 was a quick game on town. I made it to round 20 flawlessly, but I tried to train around these zombies instead of just shooting through them, and that was game over. Game 22 was on Origins again. I'm not sure why I tried playing this map since it's anything but fast, but the Panzer put an end to this run pretty quickly. Game 23 was on Nuketown, and it went poorly. Game 24 was also on Nuketown, and it did not go poorly. I made it to round 33 flawlessly before I game overed. Game 25 was on Buried, and while I made it to round 28, there were 2 downs in that game, meaning the round to down ratio was just slightly below where it needed to be. Game 26 is back on town, and this time I made it an extra 4 rounds before what I'm now affectionately calling pulling a Die Rise. For some unknown reason, I decided to play Bus Depot for game 27, but I actually managed to make it to round 15 before going down, so my ratio is still mostly intact. All in all, I would consider that a success. What I would not consider a success is game 28. What caused me to die this time? Well, like I said, sometimes I get distracted. Is the middle of that iron sight in the middle of the gun? It looks like it's way more to the left than the right. Oh, hi. I would like for you to not exist. Fucking the fire! Game 29 was a little more successful. I made it to round 17 before some zombies spawned behind me and got me. While it's still above the 15-to-1 ratio, this game could have gone a lot better. After those 10 games, the round to down ratio dropped from 18.62 to 1 to 18.1 to 1. Still not trending in the right direction, but we played a lot of games today, so we should be much closer to whatever the minimum game requirement is. At this point in the recording, I still don't know what the minimum game requirement even is. All I know is that it's somewhere around 30 games, but nowhere seems to have a definitive answer on this. So at this point, I'm just playing each game knowing it's possible that it will be the one. Day 11 starts out really poorly with 2 failed Origins attempts. Game 30 ends on round 9 after trying to capture Generator 6 in the middle of a round. Game 31 went a little better. I made it to round 13 before a Panzer Claw put an end to that run, but I make up for things a little bit on Buried before getting caught on round 32 and dying. After those 3 games, the round to down ratio didn't change. It's still 18.1 to 1. I only played 1 game on day 12 and it was on Transit. I just want to verbally warn everyone watching this. This is the worst death I've had in any video game I've ever played in my entire life. After you watch this, you'll either die of laughter or of cringe. This is your only warning. What? What the fuck happened? I just randomly blew up. Beg fucking pardon? What killed me? What killed me? Listen, I tried to throw my last grenade but ended up picking up one of the grenades I already threw, and of course it exploded in my hand and killed me. Let's just pretend that didn't happen, okay? After whatever that was, I had to take a day to question all my life decisions, but once that was done, I started day 13 with a flawless Buried round 28 run. That brings the round to down ratio to 18.2 to 1. Game 35 is the long-awaited return to Die Rise. I haven't played this map since game 20. I've had a lot of trouble with this map in this video so far, and I am ready to redeem myself today. I was down there just a bit too long. What? Huh? That was the worst game I've played, and I ranked up because of it? What the fuck? So yeah, that's how I reached Shotgun's rank in Black Ops 2. By dying on round 8. Part of the reason I was so confused that this was the game was because I forgot to record game 31 on Origin, so I thought this game of Die Rise was actually game 34, which made it seem like a completely arbitrary amount of games played to be eligible to reach shotguns. However, knowing that this is actually game 35, I think you just need to play 25 games after reaching the knife rank to become eligible to reach shotguns, which does make a lot more sense. So it took 35 games for me to reach shotguns. In those 35 games, I completed 773 rounds and downed 43 times for a final round to down ratio of, drumroll please, 17.98 to 1. It's the lowest my round to down ratio has been throughout the entire video, but it's still higher than the 15 to 1 ratio that's required, and that's all I care about. I'll probably play some more to pad that ratio further so I can do fun challenge runs in Black Ops 2 without having to worry about losing my rank, but otherwise, that is the end of the challenge. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you made it this far, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.